Starting the chainsaw, the chain brake is always on. In fact, the only time the brake shouldn't be on is when you're cutting or when the chain is running. So the brake is on. The decompression valve, this has got a little valve on the top here that eliminates 40% of the starting effort, so we get less rope breakage and we get easier starting out of it. When you have a cold saw, you pull out the choke. This saw here, you pull out the blue switch and it raises the stop switch to run, which is a great feature. On other saws, you can refer to operating instructions. This particular one integrates the choke, the stop, and the run all into one switch, which is very handy. It right now is in a run position. To choke the saw when it's cold, I can pull out and raise it up. I can then pull it to get that pop start. Taking it down to the middle position is at high idle and run. And if I need to stop the saw, it just goes down to stop and immediately returns to the run position. So again, leg locking the saw or starting the saw from a standing position, chain brake on, the decompression valve in, the choke is out. I'm going to lock it under my leg, give it a pull. It will pop to start, but it won't run. Push the choke in. You can set the decompression valve again, give it a start. It will run, hit the throttle to lower it down to idle. There's 3 positions in the choke. Again, refer to your individual operating instructions. That is a leg lock start. The other start is to start the saw down on the ground. Notice that the bar pitches up away from the ground, the dirt and so forth. You can either put your toe in the strap, or if you got a big old steel toe boot, you can come around to the back side because the handle is wider in the back to protect the operator's hand, or you can put your knee on it and give it a pull. The bottom line is you don't want to pull and have the saw go into the dirt, because then when you start cutting, you're going to have dull chain. As the saw is started now, we want to let it warm up. We let it warm up by not only letting the motor run at idle, but we want to run it slightly with some throttle so that it is oiling, because this chainsaw has an environmental friendly oiler on it. It will not oil or pump bar oil out unless the chain is moving. So that way we have the chain going in that's lubricated into the wood for the cut, which lowers the heat and in turn improves the performance and the length of life of the chain. So after the saw has been warmed up, take the brake off. We want to run it up to full speed, full throttle, all the way down. And we want to listen for a sore throat sound, I call it, or a dieseling or four-stroking. You want the high speed to dance a little bit. You don't want it to be straight line. If I may, and a little bit of a jump in there, not straight or white line or too much air, which is too much heat. So that is a function of the H, or the high speed screw, to adjust that. Take your finger off the throttle after it's dancing at high speed, bring it down. Again, no movement of the chain. That's the T screw or your LA screw. And then with the chain brake on, you can actually rotate the chainsaw, which is a function of the low speed, to make sure it doesn't stall or stutter. Take the chain brake off and hit the throttle a few times. You want very snappy response up and very snappy response down. That tells you that the L, the low speed circuit, is adjusted properly. You want a saw to be adjusted properly for performance. I want you to understand that performance is directly in line with safety. You're going to be productive with high performance when the saw is running with those 3 circuits set appropriately. You're also going to be doing it the safe way. What's very exciting in new technology is a technology called auto-tune. And what's happening now is there are no carburetor adjustments, because the adjustments are all done with a very inexpensive microprocessor that magnetically controls the fuel and air, if you will, monitoring about 7 times a second. So as you change altitude, it automatically changes the performance of the saw to that altitude. As the chain dulls, as you have different varieties of fuel with different chemical compositions in it, or different formulas depending on the time of the year, it's going to compensate and adjust for that. It does it all for you. As the saw breaks in, it's going to automatically tune and adjust itself. Pretty exciting for very nominal cost, if you will. It's going to take all the adjusting out so that you absolutely are going to be sure that that saw is running at peak performance, peak productivity, and you're going to be very safe in doing so.